learn the latest news involving Raheem Sterling, plus big updates on Denzel, Dumfries and GABRIEL Jesus. This month is looking quite nice, and essentially with this month, it does seem like the focus is on who the main targets are. We're looking at the first targets, second targets, third, and of course going on. We're talking to all of them to assess who the best possible candidates are. Expect more deals to go through from the start of next month. Let's hope that we can complete the Koundé move before this month ends, you guys. But this window is now starting to look even more promising. Now we are realizing who the main targets are. If you like today's video, I mean, why would you not like today's video? Why are you not liking the content, my friends? Smash that like button. Help me get over 2,500 likes for today's video. And without wasting any more time, let's talk the big news surrounding Denzel Dumfries. Now, in yesterday's video, which if you guys want to get further context and information, I suggest that you click on the card above. We know that Inter Milan now are open to possibly exchanging players in hopes of Lukaku moving towards them. And of course, we are in favour of that happening as well too. Another new name and target on the exchange list now is their current right wing back in Denzel Dumfries. Now, he only recently signed for them from PSV, so it's quite interesting that he could possibly be made available as part of a deal. Now, we do have Reece James, but currently we know that due to the injuries he faces, he is like one of our key creative threats, so it's no surprise why a lot of teams put a lot of, focus and attention on him. He isn't able to consistently play over 30 plus games in a season, so it does seem like we need some adequate rotation in those positions, and I think Dumfries is a very, very interesting player. Now, I'm going to give some of my thoughts and opinions behind how I feel about him and whether I think he would be like a smart acquisition to make. Now, one thing I want to stress is that Dumfries really has incredible mentality. He's a hard worker, he's a fighter. At 19 years old, this guy was playing amateur football. At 21, he was in the Dutch second division. Of course, after that, he signed for a mid-table Dutch team before moving to PSV, where he became a Dutch international player and of course got that subsequent move to Inter Milan. He's a player that has big balls, and this is something he himself has admitted literally publicly in an interview. There was a game versus Herenveen years back where, the replay's shown that maybe his golden balls, his private memos were grabbed. And in that post-match interview afterwards, he famously said that, yeah, they're pretty big and it's pretty hard to miss them. So, the guy's got fight, the guy's got personality. But Nini, what about the quality? Is this a player that could really benefit the squad? I think, yeah, but I see him more as that rotational option. Personally, I think Dumfries does have limits, but I think being realistic, we're quite blessed to have one of the best players playing this position in the world in Reece James, so there's literally no one better than him, only on his level. I don't think Dumfries, of course, is taking a sport at all, and actually his season at Inter Milan was quite decent, although there were quite a few struggles where some of his technical limits were exposed a few times. Defensively, he was a bit rash at times. I think for the bigger games, there was more trust in using Darmian over Dumfries, and he was used as a rotation option quite a lot, sharing those minutes down that right hand side alongside Darmian. So he's not necessarily the full article, but realistically we're not going to be signing someone on Reece James's level to compete with him. That makes no sense, and if we are going to commit to using a back three system, then we need to have more options to use to give players rest. At certain games, I'm sorry, we don't have to see Reece James against smaller teams if he needs a rest. Dumfries could be quite smart to use in these moments, but even though he's a hard fighter, I'd say maybe his crossing does lack at times, and crossing is really important for us. Yeah, it's nice to have a guy bombing in behind, but at the end of the day, you need to trust that final third play, and it's just, of course, naturally not on the same level as Reece James, and it is a bit mid in my personal opinions, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have uses. In games where it's quite open or to give rest, he could definitely be a smart acquisition. I think he really steps up when he plays for the Dutch national team, and he shows that he is a player that you can rely upon at times too. Personally though, if we are doing any player exchange, for me, that's to only be Martinez or Bastoni as the main two ones in my opinion, but I'll have to drop this one to you guys. How do you feel about Dumfries? Do you feel like, of course, Lukaku must go by end of this month, so we might have to just accept some things that we don't necessarily want to, but how do you feel about the player? Let us know below. So right now, let's move on to the second story today, and I want to discuss the updates surrounding GABRIEL Jesus. Now, Nizar Kinsella from Goal.com actually, further confirmed and corroborated reports that originally came out from AS in Spain when they suggested that we have actually held official talks with the player And due to those talks, it has meant that Gabriel Jesus has delayed any decisions that he might have had with Arsenal, which for me is pretty decent news. Now, when it comes to the valuation placed on him, he's available for under less than 50 mil. I think around like 43, 42 million, which is not too bad for a player who's 25 years old and still has at least like another 2 to 3 years before reaching his like absolute prime. So it's not sounding too bad in my personal opinion. But anyway, you guys, of course, I do want to get some of my thoughts and opinions behind the story and behind the player as well too. I think for me, as I'm really like reiterating quite a lot, he has not reached his peak just yet, and he has shown under Pep Guardiola that he's a very multifaceted player that can provide a lot for a team. And I personally think that if he was given that faith and trust of being the key man, being told, listen, I believe in you, I think you're going to be the guy to win us the games, bang in the goals for us, you'll see even more from the player. And I kind of have this confidence based on the fact that, you know, throughout the season, we've seen him play on the right wing, which is something we haven't normally seen. And that's due to his incredible pressing abilities as well too. I've seen some of the great goals he scored. I'm looking at the goals versus us and the goal versus Real Madrid as well too. You know, that type of unpredictability, that type of ability to, you know, score and make something out from nothing. And I've always liked that type of player. And I think us as a fan base can agree that maybe our final third play can be a bit too predictable at times. And listen, of course, it's also the system, but it's also how the players interpret the system as well. And sometimes they do pick a few more easier options. Players like Jesus, he has that confidence in tight spaces. He has that confidence over distances. He has that confidence 1v1 to create and do something from nothing. He's bulked up now, and I do feel like if he just gets consistent wins, which he won't get now that City have signed Alvarez, sick player, Erling Haaland, amazing, we could take advantage of the situation and allow the player to fully achieve his ambitions and his potential. And on top of this, you guys, you know, I also feel like I'm starting to accept that we may never see like a 30 goal, 25 goal plus striker playing under Tuchel in the system, which is not an insult to the manager, because, you know, there's many different ways to score and there's many different ways to achieve success and win. Case in point, look at Benzema, look at Vinicius. Now, if you look at all the goals that Real Madrid scored, the majority came from these two players, with Benzema getting 50 plus, of course. That's because they play through them and, of course, you know, focus on their strengths. That is why they get the goals, due to the sheer amount of opportunities that come their way. With us, I could see a successful strategy being, you know, sharing the goal distribution responsibilities over many players in the squads. I think Man City kind of had success from that last season, but I guess now they want to take things to an even different level now with the new players that they've signed. And I think based on this point, I think that Jesus could definitely have like a long-lasting impact here. On one hand, you know, if he doesn't become that 20, 30 goal plus striker, at least this is a player that consistently gets double digits every single season, and he's going to add to the squad and come in with some important goals, because he is a player that does do that and has won games for Man City. And if not, then I really feel that could even go to another level if we signed him. And for the price available, it feels like this could potentially be like a very smart acquisition in my opinion. So that's the latest surrounding Gabriel Jesus. It does seem like the interest is real. It's concrete, you guys. How are you feeling about this? Give us your opinions below. And obviously now we got to end with another massive report that dropped from the official Chelsea correspondent in Mr. Matt Law. And he gives us the exclusive breakdown on the latest surrounding Raheem Sterling. Now, it's quite obvious that Sterling is set to leave. Last season, actually, when Man City tried to sign Kane, they offered Sterling as part exchange in that deal. So, of course, his stocks at Man City have been dropping, you know, consecutively now for the past 2 seasons. It's only naturally he wants to go. He has a ton of interest across Europe, but ideally the player would actually like to remain in the country and, of course, come back to his ends in London. And this is where we can help the player out. Now, I'll tell you guys a funny story here. Back when I was younger, like years back, the one time I didn't go to goals, which was in Alberton at the time, that one time I didn't go, that was the day that all my boys actually played with Raheem Sterling goals, which is mad. He's always been known as a really blessed guy, really friendly, really nice. So it's not a surprise to me that that's literally shown through this character as how we see the player today, which is very nice to see. And it's even sicker to know that someone in your area as well too literally just like, you know, becomes like a superstar, which is mad. But anyway, getting back to the story, ideally, Man City prefer to sell him abroad. They don't want to strengthen any teams in the league. And we know that he has 1 year left in his deal, but he could still command a fee between 50 million to 60 million, which is a ton of money. But considering that he's an England international, he's had big seasons throughout his career, he brings consistent goals and assists throughout the season, double digits on a regular basis. There is this reliability factor behind the player. Now we're looking at a season where Lukaku, Werner, Ziyech and even potentially Pulisic could all be leaving. If we're selling 4 out of 6 attacking players, then we have to strengthen that area big. And this is where it could be quite exciting. And I think this is where Sterling could be, of course, a naturally smart option because he knows the league, knows the opponents, and it'll literally be no time to adjust whatsoever. You know, Sterling does his best football now. He's evolved more to be a guy that attacks from the wide areas to cut inside. And it really gets me thinking. I think the 2 guaranteed signings in this window currently are Koundé and Ousmane Dembele. With that type of talent, could even be using like a front 3 at times with like a back 4. I'm always holding out for the hope that next season we're going to have a back 5 setup as well as, a back 4 setup. I think best of both worlds would really complement everything that Tuchel's doing. And if you're looking at guys like Dembele, Sterling and great attacking Jesus, great attacking players, it would kind of hurt to not see all these guys playing together in the same team, no? So let's see what happens there. But I'm going to give my honest thoughts and opinions. Listen, Raheem Sterling is an amazing player, and of course he would naturally do bits here. But listen, it's just my personal preference, I'm saying. You don't have to hold me to it. It's not that deep. But for me, I think I want something a bit more exciting. And I know I sound very ungrateful knowing that, listen, we haven't even like dominated with offensive numbers in the league for how many years. We have no right to be like turning our noses up on players like Raheem Sterling at all. But I think for me, this is my own personal preference. I want us to target maybe younger players that can, still have some potential to reach. I think that Sterling is kind of capped with what he can do currently, which is still very good, of course. But I just think for me, I just kind of want to see more like skill and more like excitement. Not that Sterling isn't, but I just think there's other options around there. Like for example, if I had to pay money to see Sterling in the stadium or Ousmane Dembele, all my money is going to Dembele every single time. Then there's quite a few players I would say that for over Raheem Sterling, who's like a master with the basics, of course, very multifunctional, and he does have very good goal presence and threat. But with a window where we can really reshape the team to be how it wants, I think some of the other players we're looking at are a bit more exciting. And for me personally, I would pick Jesus over something like a Sterling if I had to sign someone from Man City. So that's only my opinion. Give yours in the comment section below, you guys. And on that note, I'm EFC. This is Blue Lions TV. More videos dropping today. Keep those notifications on. See you guys soon. Cool.